Welcome, everybody, to Bearcat Insider. This is the Shallowater Scouting Report. You're listening to the #1 podcast for Pilot Point sports podcasts over the last decade.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, I'm Chance Kirby. This is everybody's favorite assistant, Travis Marsh.
And then we have the sound engineers joining us today. So
we do, for a new segment.
Hey,
Roger
greetings.
Marsh is on the mic. I thought our Clyde Who Are They segment went over really, really well.
It did, but we're about to kick it up a notch.
We're about to kick it up a notch, and that's where the engineer, my dad, comes in. And so, this edition of Who Are They is brought to you by the National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries and their new podcast operator, Roger Marsh. So, Dad, first off, before we get started about Shallowater, tell us just a little bit about what your newest endeavor is.
Well, back in 2001, I helped develop the National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries into a major nationwide coast-to-coast ministry with NASCAR, IndyCar Series, and other auto racing. We basically train chaplains and people to work at the speedways and with some of the racing series to do chaplain work in the midst of all their competition. I did that from 2001 to 2012 and with the National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries, and then had to move on to some other things. And so most recently, the current executive director of the National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries, Greg Bearcat, had to step aside, and so I've been asked now to be the interim director of National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries, and so I'll step into that role at the end of November. And so I'm very excited about that because I always have enjoyed being involved in sports, and auto racing has always been a favorite thing for me, so ministry in the midst of that is going to be a lot of fun. But meanwhile, I really enjoyed working as sound engineer for pilotpointbearcats.com, and it's been a great experience, and I've been really enjoying working with you guys to work with the podcast and work with the productions on Friday night football games, and you guys have really done an outstanding job to develop pilotpointbearcats.com, so I'm excited to be a part of it.
Tell us everything we want to know and some stuff we might not want to know about Shallowater.
Well, there probably are some things here that won't be of interest to you at all, but if anybody's curious about Shallowater, Texas, USA, I've done a little bit of research and uncovered some things, so let me just get into it. I had no idea where Shallowater was or is.
I did not either.
And I had no idea what kind of things go on in Shallowater, but here's the scoop. The town's beginnings go back to 1909, which, by the way, being a historian myself, I've discovered that in Texas, lots of these small towns got their beginning around 1905 to 1908, 1910, because of the railroads being expanded throughout Texas. So apparently that was going on in 1909 up around Lubbock County.
Flashback to last week, that's the origin of Clyde.
Okay, same thing.
Mr. Wall would be very impressed with our cross-curricular nature of the podcast here, because we're currently in U.S. history talking about the westward expansion of railroads.
Absolutely.
And so,
absolutely.
Well, Mr. Wall, you're welcome.
Travis, we lived, before you were born, we lived in Emhouse, Texas, down south of Ennis, north of Corsicana. I pastored a church there and discovered that the town of Emhouse got its name from E.M. House, who was a senator at the time and negotiated with the railroad to bring the railroad through there. So a lot of towns started that way. Well, back in 1909, rancher Jim Bowles got together with a guy named Bob Crump, and they helped form a town site company. Their goal was to attract railroads to go through the area, so they purchased land, and among the first things to be established was a school. All right, so school back in Shallowater got its start way back at the beginning. The Santa Fe Railroad did indeed work out a plan, and the Ripley Town Site, believe it or not, Ripley Town Site Company was formed, but to attract settlers, the name of the town was changed to Shallowater. Kind of interesting to me, why would Shallowater attract people instead of Ripley? Who
Or
knows?
deep water when you're talking about the Panhandle and
Yes.
Gato Estacado.
Yep, absolutely. But catch this. Here's what they say on their website. Shallow water where Texas pride runs deep.
Okay.
Ooh, that's a good play on words.
That's interesting.
Hats off to you, City of Shallowater.
Good job.
Well, Shallowater has a population of around 2,500 people. The town is served by the Shallowater ISD. And being a church historian, I was interested in this. It's spiritually served by 5 churches that come together every year for a community Thanksgiving service.
They're coming up.
Unity.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be cutting turkey here in just a few days. The town is located 12 miles northwest of Lubbock in Lubbock County on Highway US 84. It's 332 miles from Pilot Point, which is around a 5-hour drive. Best I can tell, contrary to what you done covered about Clyde, Texas, Chance, no famous people from Shallowater that I
Wow.
could detect.
Well, and so
I couldn't on the online. That's why I had to call.
so my
I probably should have called. Maybe I would have gotten the scoop that way.
my challenge is if there is a Shallowater resident that happens to listen, and there are famous people indeed from Shallowater, please correct our error because it's not done in jest or in disrespect. We just couldn't find anybody. But we would be
Absolutely.
more than happy to learn.
Absolutely.
Like Elliott Park from Clyde.
From Clyde.
Well,
So I would love to hear about someone from Shallowater.
That's
to the
right.
folks from Shallowater, I apologize for my lack of diligence.
And if you need someone, Shallowater, we'll trade you Tiger King.
hey,
Ooh, are you kidding me?
I bet we could work out a deal.
we're not agreeing to that yet.
Okay, well, sorry. We have to run that through management.
All right, we digress. Athletics in Shallowater is not without highlights. Last year, the girls' basketball, the Shallowater Phillies, won the state championship, as they did also in 2003 and 4, along with boys' Mustang basketball in 2003 and 2000, or the year 03-04. Their team mascot is the Mustangs. Football began for the Mustangs in 1971. Their all-time record is 332, 205, 12. In the playoffs, the record is 34 wins, 28 losses, 1 tie. They have 15 district championships, no state championships. And in Dave Campbell's Texas football for this year, they're currently ranked at number 3 in 3A District 1 behind Grandview and Brock. Their current record for the fall 2020, and I'm sure you'll get into this more, Travis, is very impressive. 9-0 overall with 5-0 in district, against Brownfield, Lamesa, Denver City, Kermit, and Slayton. Total points accumulated through the season, 417. Total points allowed, 141. They've had a good comeback from their 2019 season, during which they were 7-5, which must have been disappointing after their 2018 season, in which they were 13-1-0. Last Thursday, they defeated River Road from Amarillo 58-7, a game in which River Road did not score until the fourth quarter, presumably because Shallowater probably allowed some backups or JB to get in some playoff experience. This week, the Bearcats will go up against Shallowater. The game will be in Breckenridge, 145 miles, 2.5 hours from Pilot Point, if you go on highways 380, 67, and 180. So that's everything that I have been able to uncover about Shallowater.
Well, thankfully for the listening public, you stole half of everything that I was going to say.
Well, in case we run out of time, then
Yeah,
it's
no,
already
no,
it's
we're
already
good.
out
But
on the table.
man, thank you for the Shallowater City of Shallowater scouting report. Now, I find it interesting that with a deep railroad history, that the Mustang is the mascot.
Mm-hmm.
That the Mustang's the mascot. They could have been the locomotives, or I mean,
Sure could have been.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That always interests me. Like, why are we the Bearcats?
Why are a lot of us around here the Bearcats?
It's an animal that's native to Southeast
Yeah,
Asia.
it's not an animal. I don't think when
It
you
is.
dig through old.
It's a bit wrong.
I'm not questioning that it's an animal. I'm saying that the mascot origin. When you look at old papers from back then, there was a boxer named the Bearcat.
Ooh.
And it was all around the same time that all of our schools kind of came online, and I think that has something to do with it.
Okay, so
The
you're
famous
gonna
boxer.
the Bearcat
Well, you got Sherman, Whitesboro, and us all right here.
and Alito.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not right around here, but
Yeah, but maybe that was it's yeah.
there's also a World War II fighter plane, a carrier plane that's a Bearcat.
It's true. But we
But
came way
we were
before them.
first.
That's
We
right.
beat that Bearcat.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Well, anyways.
Well, back to the Mustangs. The Mustangs are a real
So we
animal.
need him on our show more often.
Mustangs are indeed a real animal, but I would doubt that in 1909 there were any Mustangs roaming through West Texas at that point in time. But
I don't know.
when the community developed after 1909, it became primarily a service community for the farming and ranching industry. So hence probably Mustangs.
Well, and while we're on the subject of shallow water, let's talk about the head Mustang.
Okay.
Mr. Brian Wood. Brian Wood has an exceptional resume. He is 188 and 66 with stops at obviously Shallowater, Canyon Randall, Pampa, 2 stops at Sunray, and a stop at Rotan. He's currently 39 and 8 as the head Mustang there at Shallowater. Accomplished track record for obviously a pretty accomplished coach. So, hats off to Coach Brian Wood and the resume that he's put together. What that tells you, whenever you have roughly 3 times more losses than, 3 times more wins than losses, is, and this is something we'll cover in depth, we're going to get a football team that's going to be well coached and well prepared.
How long has Coach Wood been there?
This is year 4.
Okay.
And so, he has had a pretty good track record of success for sure. Now, the 2 years that are kind of highlights, I guess you could say, of Coach Wood's career, when you look at win-loss record, is that 2018 team that you mentioned there.
13
at Shallowater. It was 13-1-0.
13-1-0.
And then in 2004, he had a 13-1-0 record at Sunray. And so that's getting pretty close to the dance. And so whenever you've accumulated that much success, his eyes are definitely probably on the prize that we all want. So that's a little bit about your head Mustang there, Mr. Brian Wood. Let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, let's talk about what's going to happen whenever Shallowater has the ball. Cat fans, one thing that I love about walking into the field house is looking at all the old pictures that you have from years past and being able to relive the history of those great teams and great players. And I love walking through with my sons and showing them a picture and saying, man, look at that guy, and telling them a story about a great play. And you can have the same opportunity to do that with your family by using Ashley Marsh Photography to capture your family's great memories. Seeing those pictures of your family will allow you to talk to your kids or your grandkids and tell great stories about things that you've done or things that you've seen, or just funny memories that you might have. So if you ever want to document your family's history, please contact Ashley Marsh Photography. You can find her on Facebook, on Instagram using Ashley Marsh Photography, as well as her website, ashleymarshphotography.com.
Located in Pilot Point, Texas, the Chandler family has been making custom cabinets for over 40 years. As a team, Chandler Cabinets is committed to designing and building the perfect cabinets for you. They will make the process comfortable and stress-free by personally guaranteeing a superior product built on the standard of superior craftsmanship and immaculate customer satisfaction. From concept to completion, perfect form and function. Chandler Cabinets is an award-winning company with a reputation for consistent innovation at the highest level of design. You can find more information on Chandler Cabinets at chandlercabinets.net or on their Facebook page, Chandler Cabinets. Chandler Cabinets, 40 years of excellence. All right, thank you to those sponsors. We're back. We're going to jump right into when Shallowater has the ball. Before we get started, what little research that I did, because I don't get the opportunity to watch game film, I'm pretty much digging online and seeing what's happening. And I know you like boxing references, so I'm going to throw one at you.
Okay.
Although it's fake boxing.
Ooh, fake boxing.
I look at Shallowater like Ivan Drago.
Okay.
Now the question is, are we going to be Apollo Creed? Hopefully not. Although it would be cool to have James Brown come and sing Living in America.
We need a James Brown theme song.
We do.
Okay.
Moving on. Or are we going to come out like Rocky and win, but be all beat to heck? And they're a solid team. You can't find anything negative I can about them.
I think the first key to all of it is, if you want to stay with your fictional boxing reference, is the whole key to Rocky was that he finally cut Drago.
Mm-hmm.
And once that mammoth boxer showed that he was human and that he bleeds, the tide turned.
The montage music
The
starts.
montage music starts, and we're rocking and rolling. And so I think that's what the Bearcats need to see
is Shallowater man or machine?
Yes. Are they, in, of course, fictional reference, forgive the imagery, we need to make Shallowater bleed. Not literally, everyone. We're not trying to entice a riot. But we need to see what they're all about. And, they're a fantastic football team. They are. You're not undefeated by accident.
You're not number 3 in state by accident.
No. And so, this isn't one of those times where, we doubt them for a minute. They're a good football team, and it shows on film. But can we make them bleed? And will they go in at halftime, and are they going to look at the guy in their corner and say, those Bearcats, they're like iron? Another movie reference for you there. Same movie.
Yeah.
But no, we have to. We have to sit in there, and we have to box with them. We have to make them bleed. And we have to take all the punches that they're going to throw at us and stay upright. And so, talking offense, it's going to feature, it's going to be what we've seen for weeks now outside of the Brock game. It's a quarterback-centric offense going around number 15, Bax Townsend. That's an exceptional quarterback. He does such a fantastic job managing their offense, but it's not just about him. Okay, he has 2 backs in the backfield with him. You have Keegan Campbell, who's number 7, and you have Caleb Cox, who's number 30, and they both can make plays. If you had to go with it, number 30 is kind of Mr. Outside. Number 7, he's kind of Mr. Inside. But number 7 is a fantastic overall back. And then they have receivers that match. But the main thing for the Bearcats is going to be, can we withstand what they're going to try to do to us on the ground? And they're a great football team. They really are.
Is it like Week 10? Are we going into this? Are you telling me they're going to make plays? The question is how we respond.
Well, I mean, look at what Dad gave us in the scouting report. They've scored 417 points. If you look down their schedule, it's consistently in the 40s and the 50s. Positive things are going to happen for the Shallowater Mustangs. There's no doubt about it. Is it going to be positive in words of first downs, or is it going to be positive in touchdowns? I don't know. But they will have some success. They're too good of a team to not.
How's their tempo? Do they huddle?
It's hard to tell on film, to be honest with you.
Huddle cuts that out.
Huddle cuts that out. If you have a good cameraman, everybody thinks everybody's no huddle.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just one of those things that they're going to be physical. They're going to be disciplined. They're going to be well coached. They're going to have a game plan, and they're going to execute their game plan. And so we just have to be ready to weather the storm and stand in there and throw punches with them.
So we've got 2 running backs and a quarterback, and is who we need to look out for.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always ask you, who do I need to tell the guy sitting beside me at the game that didn't listen to this? Is there anyone else?
15, 7, and 30, well, those are going to be your touchdown guys. Now, they have some fantastic receivers. 22 is a big, tall target. They have a big, tall tight end. From what we've seen in district play, they're not going to tip the scales like some of the teams that we've seen, but they're going to be very, very well disciplined. They're going to, their biggest lineman on the program is listed at 240. Now, what is he in real life? Nobody knows, because we all know how coaches do with their program.
I saw something unusual as I was researching online. It was a Lubbock news story. They don't kick extra points. They go for 2 every time, according to the Lubbock news story.
Well, maybe they don't have a kicker.
Yeah.
Maybe there's not a accurate, consistent kicker on the roster. You just never know.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's scheme.
Mm-hmm.
But if it works for them and they're undefeated, then, hey, man, don't kick field goals or extra points. No big deal.
You're an analytics guy. What does the analytics say? Are you better to go for 2 every time? If you're just strictly remove everything but go with the math. Is your extra point a guarantee? No. I would like to believe ours is.
Yeah, I mean, I feel really good about Joel kicking extra points. So take the points. Other than that, you go to your chart of your go for 2 or go for 1 chart, and you run the numbers that way. But if you feel like your kicker's not very consistent and you feel like you have a good offense, man, go for 2. The law of averages says that you're probably going to end up with about the same number of total points anyway.
Gotcha. Got any questions, Mr. Engineer?
I was going to ask how frequently they, if they kick at all, and my question was kind of along your lines as well, Chance. If they go every time for two, how often do they make it? Travis, you said the law of averages says it comes out about the same, but is there any statistic that shows their success rate at going for two? And the reason I ask is that could make the difference in the game.
Well, it could, because it's one of those things that if we know they've lined up for one extra point through all the film that we've seen. Now they're going to go for two most of the time. You try to put yourself in a plus situation defensively to stop it. The problem comes with when you start missing those 2-point conversions 2 or 3 times. Say you miss 3 2-point conversions, you've left 6 points off the board. And so that's the problem, is you better be good at it, because if you're not, you can get yourself behind the 8 ball in a hurry. But Shallowater's pretty good at it.
They could also put us in a bind if they make everyone.
It puts pressure on. I mean, it's pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're scoring 6 or 8 touchdowns in a game,
hopefully not.
That's potentially 12 points.
Yes.
Well, absolutely. Say both of us score 4 touchdowns, and we kick extra points, so we have 28. They go for 2, and now they're up 32-28. Now
score touchdowns.
Yeah, it's not a field goal game anymore.
Yeah.
It's now turned into a touchdown game, and so with success, it does put a lot of pressure on us, and pressure's also on them, because the bleachers aren't always kind to passing up a point.
Did the guy in Arkansas that became famous or infamous for onside kicking and never punting, did he always go for 2 as well?
He always went for 2 as well.
Okay. All right.
It's all about maximizing possessions and points.
Okay.
Now, scheme-wise, okay, we've talked about personnel. Scheme-wise, you're looking at a heavy dose of outside run game with an outside zone fly type scheme. They'll use the quarterback to get there. They'll use backs to get there. They'll misdirection and run guard tackle GT stuff with the quarterback and also with a back. And you hate to say it, it's not an elementary passing game, but we're not looking at Bill Walsh's West Coast offense here. Their passing game's predicated off using the running game as a lull you to sleep type thing, but they are very capable in the passing game. Back outs can be problematic. They do a lot of 2 tight end stuff, which is something that isn't exactly in vogue in North Texas. And so that creates, some issues. That puts a lot of pressure defensively to align to 2 tight ends, because you have to account for 8 gaps instead of 6 or 7. And it's hard to be gap sound all the time against 2 tight ends. And so schematically, that's what you're going to see. And I really feel like this is it's going to be a very Boyd-ish game, in that if we can stop the quarterback, I like our chances. Not taking anything away from those other guys, but he is the cog there. He's a fantastic football player.
Makes sense. I mean, he does get the ball in his hands every play. So,
how is he classified, Travis?
That's a great question, Dad. Let me look at the roster.
I heard someone this morning at the breakfast that we had indicate that he may be a sophomore.
He is a sophomore.
Wow.
15's a sophomore, 7 is a junior, and then 30 is a sophomore. So they're going to be young in the backfield.
Wow, they're loaded for the future.
If you look at their roster, looks like maybe 45 kids on the roster. So about 25% of them are seniors. It's pretty evened out. No freshmen on the roster. So they're loaded for a run over the next couple of years. Let's take a quick break, come back, talk about what happens whenever the Bearcats have the ball.
Since 1983, the Scott Walker Insurance Agency has been covering the insurance needs of Pilot Point. Regardless of what that need may be, they have you covered, offering homeowners, auto, life, farm and ranch, and commercial. Give them a call at 940-686-2692. That's Germania Insurance, the Scott Walker Insurance Agency, located just north of the town square at 211 Scott Lane in Pilot Point, Texas. Scott Walker Insurance Agency, always there to help.
We want to wish our varsity cheerleader, Abby, a great senior year. Love Mom, Dad, and Michael.
Hi, I'm Greg Pelzel. Here at Pelzel Printing, we do custom embroidery, custom screen printing, and promotional product. You can reach Greg Pelzel at 940-453-5443. Go Bearcats.
All right, we're back now. We've covered with Shallowater on offense. Now we're going to flip it around and see what they look like when they're on defense and what we have to contend with.
Well, whenever you look at where they have the ball, we're going to get a three-man front, at least what we've seen on film. Maybe they change everything up. Who knows? But three-man front, you're going to get four linebackers. There's certain personnel packages where they went to kind of a 3-5 look, more of a stack look with two overhang linebackers that are run-first players. But that was against a team that was a very run-oriented team. So it's one of those things where you have two game plans going in, and one to attack a 3-4, and another one to kind of look at the other fronts that we're given. They have a good line. All right, they're all they get after it. They're really good at what they do. When it comes to the second level, number 18 plays linebacker. Number 35 is the other inside linebacker, and he's a load. He's a fantastic tackler. He moves well. But really the outside linebackers are a key cog in what they do, number 44 and number 2. They do a fantastic job of setting the edge. They're both really good athletes. One of them is an outside linebacker who also doubles as a wide receiver. Interesting combo there. I guess no more interesting than our defensive end wide receiver combo. But they're fantastic players. Now that same stud quarterback is going to fill in at safety. Okay, and then his favorite receiver fills in at the other safety. And so, you have experienced guys that make plays there on the back end, and then both of the corners are kind of tall and long and good players. They're very sound. You'll see minimal blitzing from them. They line up correctly, and they play their tail off. And so, the problematic part is going to be consistent drives. We have to put together drives. We were fortunate enough against Clyde to break off, I do believe, 3 plays that were over 40 yards for touchdowns. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. It's going to be a little bit more difficult, I do believe, just because of they play a bend don't break style of defense. And so, can we have success? We absolutely can. People have. We have to have consistent success, and then we have to put together drives and make sure that we finish drives with points, not punts. Continue to take care of the ball. And, it's just one of those things. The defensive front will move. They'll slant one way or the other. And so, yeah, it's going to be it.
It's going to be exciting. I'm a little nervous, to be honest with you.
It goes back to what we've talked about for maybe the last month is automatics. Mm-hmm. There's tendencies. There's bona fide tendencies. Now, can our kids, can they execute the game plan is what it's going to turn into. Because through our week of practice, I feel like Coach Freeze and Coach Peacock have great game plans on paper. That's all we have to go off of right now is paper. And I fully believe in both of their plans and think they've done a great job.
I know Shallowater spent a lot of time on us. They were at the Brock game. They had people at the Brock game, and then they had people there last week as well. So they've kind of had – it seems that they've had this penciled in and really been preparing for that.
Well,
might be doing a little bracket watching.
When you look at their schedule compared to our schedule, there's no Brocks on their schedule. The biggest question mark is the strength of schedule, if we want to sound like college football analysts.
Well, I know the Lone Star Gridiron 3A show, that's what their comments were. And the same thing is that it's hard to judge Shallowater if you're going by who they played. But
judging them by film, they're a good football team.
That's just like I said, what I've seen, and you don't get ranked number 3 by
accident.
It doesn't happen that way.
You can be ranked like number 13 by accident because they're just like, well, yeah, sure, they're number 13.
Yeah, and to further prove that point, we feel very positive about our team. We haven't even been ranked in the top 10 all year.
Yeah.
They're number 3.
Yeah. No, our work will be cut out for us, for sure.
Yeah.
And the kids play hard, they get after it, and then Coach Wood and his staff do an excellent job of preparing them to play. And if you want to look at their schedule and talk about this or that, they've taken care of business every game they've played in. They don't have a Whitesboro game.
That's all you have to do.
And so that Whitesboro game is kind of a black eye on our resume.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how it is.
Well, I know you like those cliches, but that's why you play the game.
It is why you play the game. But, and I'll say this, just going back to my own experience, had we not lost to Prosper, we never would have made it to the semifinals. I firmly believe that. And Dad, you got to live it. That was a devastating loss my senior year.
Yes.
But I think it also was an eye-opening loss in that we weren't near as good as we thought we were. But every game after that, outside of the Salina game, I think we took care of business because it was almost like remember the Alamo.
Sure.
I don't want to repeat that Prosper feeling ever again. And so I think the Whitesboro loss can have that same effect if the kids choose to function like that and say, I never want to go back to that place. Where you look back at the game film and you say, why? What happened? And so, I think that Shallowater doesn't have the benefit of that.
Yeah.
Because their first loss is going to be their last game.
True. What about the special teams? I know we talked about not kicking extra points. Do they do any of the fake onside stuff we've seen all year?
They're just a solid special teams team. They haven't done anything that we necessarily want to circle or anything like that. But the rule of special teams is to just stay ready like lunch meat. You never know what's going to happen. You expect everything all the time. Every kickoff, expect an onside kick. Every punt, expect a fake. And if you function like that, you can typically avoid a ponder type situation.
Sounds good. If any, I feel like some Shallowater people may be listening. Just want to let them know, as well as our listeners, that the game is going to be on our YouTube channel.
Sure.
If you don't want to pay that pay-per-view offered by the, what is it, NCHS? I don't know.
NFHS.
NFHS. If you don't want to pay that, you can listen to it. Yes, Ryan and John are our announcers, but they try to stay as middle of the road as possible, with the leaning towards Pilot Point.
Yeah, it's like the leaning tower of Pisa.
They're not over the top homers, I don't think. But maybe I think that because I am from the town they're announcing. I don't
maybe
know.
so.
Maybe so. But anyway, thank you for listening if you're from Shallowater. And
Yeah, well, in any case,
Have a safe drive.
safe travels to everyone.
Absolutely.
Playoff football's fun because, I don't have any beef with anybody from Shallowater because I don't know anybody from Shallowater.
Yeah.
So I wish them the best.
Yeah.
After the game's over and, hopefully it turns out the way that we want it to.
Sure.
And even if it doesn't turn out the way we want it to, I still wish them the best because I don't have any beef with anybody.
Correct.
All right, let's take one last break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we'll wrap this thing up.
Pelzel Barbershop and Salon and Southern Junkies has been home of the Bearcats since 1973. Whether you are looking for a classic crew cut or the perfect game day outfit, we have you covered. We carry a few fan favorite brands including Hey Dude Shoes, Judy Blue Jeans, Z Supply Clothing, and Orleans Candle Company. Come check us out on the north side of the square in downtown Paula Point or online at www.southernjunkies.com, and that is junkies with a Z. And don't forget, go Bearcats!
There is no better source for local news than the Pilot Point Post-Signal. Pilot Point Post-Signal has been covering Pilot Point since 1878, providing award-winning, top-notch coverage of Pilot Point and the Pilot Point Bearcats. You can start your subscription today by going to postsignal.com and signing up for their special, which is 2 months free of the digital and print copy, or you can call their phone number at 940-686-2169. The Pilot Point Post-Signal, the best source for local news. Bring it back.
All right, well, before we go through and wrap it up, you got anything you'd like to add?
I do want to remind everyone it's a 7 o'clock start.
Yes.
I know, according to what Coach David said this morning at the Bearcat breakfast, that's not necessarily unusual to everyone else. That's very unusual to Pilot Point people.
We're 7:30 regular season.
Yes. So those of you listening, if you're listening while you're driving over, I hope you're not looking at the clock right now saying, "Oh Lord,
Yeah.
we've got a problem."
Also, we are the visitor. Just to remind.
Have to have tickets beforehand.
Yes,
correct?
you can buy them online, and they can scan through a mobile device. You don't have to have a printed ticket.
Oh wow, that's high tech.
Breckenridge's high class.
So that would be similar to what Brock did.
True.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Dad, anything you'd like to add before we wrap it up?
No, just thank you for allowing me to be a part of PilotPointBearcats.com, and I hope everybody has safe travels out to Breckenridge, and we look forward to trying to, one more time, offer a quality production, even though it's just audio and not video. As we've already indicated during the playoffs, we feel obligated to honor UIL rules and not produce video. So we'll be audio only, but we'll be looking forward to getting it on the air.
Tell you what, and I hope next week we have another award-winning travel segment on bushland or wall.
Yeah, a little bit of familiarity with the wall, but let's not put the cart before the horse. We got to take care of business and get shallow water. Once again, we'd like to thank all of our listeners, and we'd like to thank our generous sponsors that make this podcast possible. That'd be Ashley Marsh Photography, Pelzel Printing, Pilot Point Post Signal, Dana Walker with Germania Insurance, Southern Junkies, and last but not least, Chandler Cabinets. Without their gracious support, we wouldn't be able to do this. We wouldn't be able to bring a product to y'all. So, Bearcat fans, please go support your local businesses. And as always, go Bearcats.
Bearcats.